Okay, I guess we'll get started. Few people might join us a little bit later. I hope sooner
Yeah,
than
we
later.
might have about 8 more, I'm thinking.
Hi, Hillary.
Do we need to wait another minute?
Yeah, they'll wait another minute or so.
Okay.
Hi, Carrie.
Hi.
Community
It's always
organizers.
interesting to look
Marilyn,
at this and see how you look to everybody else. Right?
hey,
You're
Marilyn.
sitting here and
Sorry. Hey, Marilyn Pullen, are you Marilyn Heller as well? Is that the same?
No,
Oh, no, I get the same problem again.
2 Marilyns.
So Marilyn Pullen is the only know about, or Marilyn Dix Pullen. I'm not Marilyn Eller.
Oh, and there is Marilyn. There's 2 Marilyns. Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll need to be on mute, so hopefully
Sure.
I won't need to talk again.
Hi, Jane Patterson. I haven't seen you in a
I
while.
see Jane. Hi, Jane.
Welcome, Doanne. Is that how you say your name?
I was gonna say, welcome, Doanne.
Hi, Loretta.
Is is there a Aaron Berquist? Are you on? I don't see you.
Okay, I do think we will get started and hope the extras join us soon. First of all, I'm Barbara Winery, and I'm the co-director for voter service for the State League of Women Voters Colorado. I'm also a voter service coordinator for the Greeley-Weld County LWV, and been involved with voter service most of my membership life. And I really love this part of what the League of Women Voters does. So as the co-director, I really felt it was important to start early in the election year. It's just not when we start in September, we start getting ready in January. And I think also it's important that we revisit some of the things that are new, or maybe refresh our memories in different areas of the voter service responsibilities. I really do plan to have some workshops in this spring coming up, talking about all the different aspects of what voter service does and getting people familiar with the rules, regulations, and what we do and how we can do it. I have invited Linda Thomas, and graciously she accepted, because I feel she's a real strong expert in this area and has been working diligently in different aspects of voter registration to share her expertise and knowledge with us this afternoon. And I'll just read a few words about her bio and what she's done and why she's qualified to lead us. Linda Thomas is a voter registration organizer for the Larimer County League of Women Voters for the past 6 years. She's begun this work in 2017 when she moved here from Georgia. Linda was a league member in Georgia for 5 years as publicity chair with some voter registration work. Voter registration became her passion, and she eagerly accepted the position in Larimer County upon moving here. As a former teacher, Linda feels being a voter registration organizer is a perfect fit. Since her time as voter registration organizer, she has organized events and has expanded to 18 high schools, 3 colleges, festivals, farmer markets, food banks, jail work release, and halfway house, and organizations helping with homeless and jobless, and any group that invites the league to register electors. And everybody that's joining us tonight, I think you probably have an at least a passion about registering voters and want to learn more about it. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Linda to carry on with her presentation. And thanks again, Linda, for being here this afternoon to help us out.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I've worked with Barb a couple times. We've done some events, some kind of overlap in her area with Greeley Weld. And it's been great getting to know her. If you haven't done so already, if you would put your name in the chat and say what league you're from, if you are from a league. And if you are a league person, are you a volunteer? Are you a VRD organizer or agent? Because that's what we're talking about, voter registration drives today, but anybody can watch this because it shows you how to register. If you're from another organization, let us know that too. I saw somebody was from Black Votes Matter, which is really cool. So we hope we give you some information. It looks like Erin made it. Yay, and Pam is here. Great. Don't see Jane. Is Jane Everman yet?
Yeah. She's
Hey,
here.
all right, great. All right, well, we're going to get started. And I'm going to try to share my screen. We had a little technical difficulty earlier. So fingers crossed, folks. We were really freaking out around 1 o'clock. All right, let's get this up here. Right, are you seeing this?
Yes.
Right, I'm going to try to get rid of all these little side screens. There we go. All right, here we go. All right, so this is voter registration training for 2023. And these are some pictures we've taken. I love the one in the corner. This is one we did a Ben and Jerry's free cone day. That was several years ago before COVID, but one of my favorite pictures. All right, did the next picture show up?
Yes. By the way, Linda, Pat Berger here. I cannot see everybody's picture because you're sharing the screen. So if people have questions, put them in the chat.
But you
or
can
just
see the
say, I have
chat,
a
right?
question, and monitoring the chat. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, it's perfectly fine to ask them while I'm doing this. And every once in a while when Pat sees a bunch of them all at the same time on a particular page, she'll have me pause and I'll answer your questions. I think it works better that way than waiting all the way to the end because I have a lot of slides. So vocabulary for VRDs, voter registration drives. First of all, that's what a VRD is. It's a voter registration drive. And what it means is if you have 2 or more people that are registering, then they're collecting forms that they're going to deliver to the county clerk, they have to register with the Secretary of State to become a VRD. So if somebody wants to do just registration forms on their own and they're on their own and they're single and they're not part of an organization and they're just doing it on their own, as long as they're not collecting the forms, they're okay. It's just, you can't collect them unless you sign up with the Secretary of State. And our Larimer League is a VRD. Circulators, I believe that term refers to those people who are trained by a VRD and they help collect and register people. And you'll be assigned a circulator number by that VRD. So I'm only going to be working with the Larimer County volunteers for the League of Women Voters of Larimer County. But some of you are going to be maybe working with other organizations, other leagues, other VRDs. Who is this training for? Well, if you are a VRD organizer or agent, this is going to give you a little extra information that you wouldn't find on the Secretary of State training, but it does not replace that training. You still have to take that in order to get your new number for 2023. So you still have to do that training for the Secretary of State to be an organizer or an agent to be established as a VRD. The circulators, though, anybody working for a VRD, this will serve as training. I'm doing the Secretary of State PowerPoint plus a little bit more. And if you're just doing registration on your own, that's fine. This is going to give you information that you might not have had if you just looked at the training on the Secretary of State website. One thing we have to remember, the most important thing for the league is that you have to stay nonpartisan. we get volunteers working with each other and we get to chatting. We have to be careful of that. We can't be talking about parties and candidates. And definitely with the voters, we have to stay nonpartisan. We can't talk about ballot issues, even though sometimes the league supports these issues, not when we're doing registration. We just stay out of all of that. All we're doing is getting them registered, telling them how to vote, how the process works in voting. Was there a question?
No, I don't think so. I think we can definitely refer them to Vote 411. That's an excellent resource.
Right. All right. Well, this is going to be the Secretary of State training PowerPoint, and I'm interspersing it with some of my own slides. So you're going to be learning about voter registration, ID, how to collect and submit forms. That submitting forms is more to do with the agents and the organizer than it is for volunteers and circulators. All right. So to be eligible to register to vote, you have to be a U.S. citizen at the time you're completing the form. You have to be at least 16 years old, a resident of Colorado, 22 days before an election in which you want to vote. And you have to make sure you know the answers to these questions or these aspects on the form, because people are going to be asking you questions. Who can vote? You have to be a U.S. citizen, 18 or older, to vote in Colorado. People that are homeless can vote, but they do need to have a mailing address. We're going to get into that when we go to the forms. Oh, by the way, if you wanted to print out the form, I had that in the chat if you haven't already done it, but if you didn't, it's okay, because I go over each part of the form step by step. Also, people with convictions can vote in Colorado. If they have a misdemeanor, they can vote anytime, even from jail. If they have a felony conviction, they can vote as long as they're not incarcerated. They can even vote while on parole or probation. And since I've been here in the 6 years I've lived here, Colorado has changed the felony ability to vote twice. So the next step would be that everyone can vote no matter whether they're in prison or not, but I don't know if we'll get to that part or not. They do that in a couple other states. This is a card that we hand out. We hand this out when people say, oh, I can't vote, I have a felony conviction. Well, we tell them, as long as you're in Colorado, you can vote while you're on parole or on probation for a felony. So this is something we hand out and we let them know the rules. If anybody's interested in getting this, we have it in English and Spanish, and we can send you a copy of it. You can just adjust it to put your own league's name on it. Can a voter VRD circulator fill out the form for an applicant? And yes and no. Yes, you can if they ask you to. If they say, I've left my glasses, I can't see, I've broken my right hand, I can't write, or my handwriting's shaky. Or if you see that they're having trouble, ask them, would you like me to help you fill this out? And then you can do so, except for one part. You can't do the signature. Even if they have to make an X, you cannot do the signature, but you can witness it if they can X, and we'll go over that on the registration form. When they do fill this out, it needs to be in blue or black ink, and it needs to be filled out completely wherever there's an asterisk. And as you fill it out, after you check it, if you're a VRD, you'll add your circulator number after you've checked the form. This slide to me is really hard to see. So I've added a bigger version of it. This is the back of your registration forms. It's got a lot of great information on it. I'm not going to go over all of that, but when we do our registrations, we don't want to profile anyone. So we turn the form over. Actually, it's already turned over on our clipboard, and we have them go right to, am I eligible to register to vote? We put a little asterisk by it or circle it. And we have them read that so that we don't profile somebody that may not be a citizen, and we don't want to ask them that question. And sometimes people will say, oh, I had a conviction. I don't think I can do this. And then we tell them, yes, you can. And off to the right, it actually says you're no longer serving a term of imprisonment. It's over there. Can I register to vote if I was arrested or convicted of a crime? It's right across on the right-hand side. So if they have any doubt, they can see it there again, as well as our card that we hand out. Once we've had them read that and they say, yep, everything's fine, I'm eligible, then we will ask them, do you have your Colorado driver's license or learner's permit or state ID? If they say they left it in their car, I'd rather have them use that ID if they have it. I will give them a different form, which I'll show you in a minute, but it won't say drive on it, and it won't have our VRD number on it. It'll have that missing. I'd rather they use that if they have the Colorado ID than use Social Security number. All right, let's say they've got their ID with them and let them start filling this out. If they check no, they're not a citizen, then they're done. They're not going to be able to do anymore. But if you had them read the back, you probably already got that question answered. On the second part, when they write their name, they need to print it legibly in blue or black ink, last name first. Some people don't have a middle name, that's fine. And suffix is more like a junior, a senior, a third. I rarely have anybody fill that out. This part is something for their birthday that they usually skip. I don't know why they do that, but they skip it a lot. And they sometimes put down the year that it is rather than the year they were born. So make sure they're not putting down 2023 because then it will not be a completed form and they'll have to do that part of it. This is where their driver's license will go. I have the old driver's license on the left, which I still have, which is so hard to read, but it's 4D customer identifier in the middle. It's a 9-digit number. The new ones are so much nicer. It says DL number, driver's license number, and it's a 9-digit number, 2 digits, 3, and then 4. And if they have that, that's where it goes. If you're giving them a form to take home, I would show them where it is on their driver's license, just so they know that's the number that they're going to write down. And then you can give them a form where they can mail it back in. Any questions so far?
Nope. Somebody wanted a copy of the handout for felons, and I suggested they email you. And
My email was already listed at the top of the chat, but we'll list it again at the end. But yes, we can get you. We can get you that. All right. Those people that maybe they were going to take the form home because they left their driver's license in the car or at home. The high school kids do this all the time. They can take a form home and they can add that driver's license that was on that one before on that one. If they don't have a driver's license, they're new to Colorado or a non-driver, they can use the last 4 of their social security number to register. And then some of our students don't know their social security number. So again, we'll give them a form to take home and they will get that social security number from their family. And I've never had anybody check that bottom one. I do not have a license, ID card, or social security number. I've never had anyone check that. So I've asked what that is, and I don't even think the Secretary of State is sure when that applies, but they will assign them a special number if for some reason they don't have any of those things. All right, address. The address is where you live. So you cannot use a PO box here. You'll use it on 5 or 6. The unit number is like their mobile home lot number or their apartment. The county, we do register any county in Colorado. Sometimes people are traveling around and they're visiting at a farmer's market and they're from another county. As long as they're from Colorado and not another state, then we can register them. And we will make sure the agents and the organizers of a VRD, if we're collecting these forms, we will make sure that we mail it to the correct county clerk. By the way, on the back of this form, if you're going to a different county than Larimer, they have the Denver address on the back of this form. So if you're doing this information and you're having them mail it in themselves, they can get the address on the back of the form. I'm going to talk about homeless in a second. I'll come back to that. 5, if the address is exactly the same, they just check the box, and the same for 6. This is where their ballot will go. But if they are homeless, there's a box there at the bottom of 4. They would check that and they would put down the intersection where they're found most often. So for my Larimer County people, a lot of people would put down Blue Spruce or Conifer because that's where our food bank is. That's where the Murphy Center is. They could also put down the Murphy Center address because they have a mailbox there, but the county clerk does allow, even though they don't sleep there, it's not where they live, they do let them put the Murphy Center address there. And we have that available if we run across somebody at the food bank. Betty Marshall will tell you how to do that because she's going to do the food banks, but she's got that address. And then if they're, since they're homeless, they still have to supply an address. So they can use a relative, they could use a friend, they could put the Murphy Center down here again. I think even maybe Catholic Charities might allow them to do that, or maybe one of the rescue missions might allow them to do that, use that as their address if they allow them to get mail there. They can also use general delivery, but it's usually going to go to the main post office, and that may be farther away than where these homeless people are usually hanging out. So they have to think about that. And then 6 is, again, they would use that same address that they used on 5 if they're homeless. College students, let me mention that. A lot of students come from out of state. And when you ask them for that driver's license for Colorado and they say they don't have one, ding, 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 alarm should go off for you, especially if they look like they're college age students. And you might ask, do you go to college? Now for us Larimer people, we would say, do you go to CSU? Because that's our college locally. And if they do go to college, the next question is, do you have a scholarship? So the scholarships that you need to watch for anywhere that they're going to college in Colorado, anyone has a WUI, which is the undergraduate for the Western states, or WICHE, which is the master's degree for the Western states. If they register to vote or they get a driver's license to become a resident of Colorado, and their scholarship is coming from another state, like Wyoming or Arizona, they will lose that scholarship. So we have to be really careful when you're at the college campus or maybe even at the farmer's market, and you see somebody that's young that doesn't have a local state driver's license, then you need to say, just ask them, are you a college student? Because I need to know if you have a special scholarship. The other scholarship that's a problem is Alaska. I believe they'll not only lose their Alaska scholarship, they will lose their oil money if they still do that. So we have to be careful with that. How does a college student register then? Well, they can register with their Social Security number if they want to. If they don't have those scholarships, please don't let them register at all if they have those scholarships. But if they don't have that scholarship and they want to register and they don't have a driver's license, they could use their Social Security number, and then they will show their college ID when they go to vote. So there are ways that college students can vote from out of state. They can also ask for an absentee ballot from out of state and vote in their home state. They don't have to register in Colorado. Just wanted you to be aware of that because I didn't realize that when I first started to do colleges. So it was a good thing that the county clerk told me this. Any questions so far?
Well, I think that's worth clarifying. If they are a college student and they are from Colorado, but they're going to school in a different state, they can put down there to have it mailed to Arizona or Hawaii.
Oh,
or
right,
wherever.
right. Let's go back to that a
Okay.
second. So on number 6, thank you, Pat. On number 6, we have a lot of high school students that we're registering that are seniors. So they're going to go off to college, and some of them are going to go out of state. And if they have the WUI scholarship or WICHE, they don't want to register in Wyoming if they have that Colorado WUI or WICHE. So it works the other way as well. So they can have the ballot sent to their college in another state, and they would change their address of where they want their ballot mailed as long as their family still lives at that address that they originally registered at. Yes, the parents could send them their ballot, but you think about that, that's 3 mailings. It's the county to the family to the college students, and the college student back to the county. And that's a lot of mailings. And yes, we have about 15 days, maybe about 21 days to get this in, but that's really pushing it. So it's best to just change where you want your ballot to be mailed if you're going out of state to college. And we explain this to the college students to the high school students when we register them, that they can stay registered in Colorado if their family has the same address. Thanks for mentioning that, Pat.
Note on the mailing is Secretary of State sends them out, with vote mailings. So if you're mailing to the parents, it may go out later. And they, probably send to out-of-state military earlier in their process. 'Cause, it takes them a while to get all those ballots.
Yeah, and the military is a whole nother thing. And what I do is I would just refer them to the county clerk and let them tell them the logistics of the military voting. They felt that that was the better way to do it because there's all kinds of extenuating circumstances, but they get it early enough where they have plenty of time. All right, I'm going to go on to picking a party. This is confusing for our high school students and some of our adults as well, but they
Linda,
don't.
there's a
Yes.
question. Marilyn Heller's got her hand up.
Okay,
I can't see hands, so just put in the chat, I have a question. Thank you.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think it's wonderful that there is now the box for the homeless.
well, there's been one for a while. It's been there for a little while.
Okay.
Yeah, we normally find them at the food banks, or we will, or when we're at the Murphy Center. That's usually where we come across. And believe it or not, high school students as well. There have been some students who've been homeless, and if you know how to handle that, you'll know how they can fill that out. They usually know the address, or maybe they're couch surfing and they can put down a relative or a family's address, but they want to keep that quiet. But yeah, I have had some homeless students that have had to check that box. So thank you for bringing that up. All right, picking a party. They either do 7A and they pick a party to be affiliated with, and they only pick one, or they do B. But if they do A, they're done. They picked one party, they're done. Don't get into a discussion with them about anything else about being unaffiliated, because we did have a problem where a student thought the person was trying to dissuade them from the party they chose, I guess. And she was just trying to completely tell them about A and B like we do in the classrooms, and he took it the wrong way. So once they've checked a box in A, they're good. And we don't need to go any further in discussing picking a party. But if they're unsure, they pick one box in A and then they're done. They go on to 8. Or if they want to be unaffiliated, they will skip A and they'll do B. And they'll pick first box, I would like to be unaffiliated. And I want to receive the following party's primary ballot. So they're going to be checking 2 boxes in B. The first one is I want to be unaffiliated or independent. And the second box is, what party do we send you? Do we give you all the major party ballots? And that would be Republican and Democrat right now. Those are the major parties. Or do you want a different one? And you can only pick one other one. And it's only good for one primary. So it's only going to be good for 2024. And then will automatically revert back to receiving all the major party ballots, which will be 2 ballots, unless you go online and you pick a primary ballot every time there's a primary. So there's one in 2024 and the next one will be in 2026. So we don't go too much into depth with this with the high school students. Just make sure that they do one in A, or they check 2 boxes in B. And if they actually leave this whole section blank, there's no asterisks here. So the county clerk will automatically make them be unaffiliated if they check nothing. I just want to stress, if they get 2 ballots because they're unaffiliated, the Republican and Democrat ballot, they can only vote 1. If they vote both, then neither one of them will count. So we sometimes have, yes?
Pardon me, if we go back, we had a question. If a Colorado student goes out of state and doesn't know their address for school, can they update the mailing later? I
Yes.
said yes, but I thought you might want to emphasize
Yes.
that.
Yeah, in fact, if they're under 18, they can't update anything online until they turn 18. For privacy reasons, they can't see their voter registration information. But yeah, by the time they're ready to go off to school, come September, once they've got their address, they can go ahead and they can go online and they can just change where they want their ballot to be mailed. So it's pretty easy for them.
And it's easy for anybody to change
Yeah.
anything online.
Right.
I think
Right.
it's worth emphasizing what you said about getting, being careful about helping them. Oftentimes they don't know what the difference between a primary and a general election. If you're
Yes.
doing presentations to young people, that you might have to clarify that.
Right, and even the adults might not know the difference. So I will tell them the difference between a primary and a general, or ask if they already know. I will not explain the parties to them. I don't know, if you get an adult that's asking you, all right, maybe, but you explain it to the students, you don't know what they take home to their family. And we don't want to be accused of steering them one way or the other when we're working with a League of Women Voters. So I don't think there's a way to describe these parties without, it sounds like you're steering them, in my opinion anyway. So we just say, we don't know. And if you choose it unaffiliated right now, or you pick a party right now, you can always go back in and you can change it. You're not locked into this for life. So it's not that big a deal to choose a party right now, because at this age, because they can always go and change it. Or later, you can change it at a later age. We have a lot of questions about 8. So if you're brand new, doing registration brand new, this updating a record is just if they're updating a Colorado record. They probably should say that there. So if you've moved within the state and you were already registered in, say, Denver, and now you're in Fort Collins, you are updating a record. So you're going to put your previous home address, your previous mailing address, and you will not check that box because you are updating a record. But if you're coming from California or Texas, we don't want that information of where you lived in California or Texas. So you're not updating a current Colorado record. So you will check that box. Most of our high school students check that box because they've never been registered before in Colorado. Any questions about that? They might also change their name if they get married. So they might be already registered under their maiden name, and then they might put their maiden name here, and then their correct information is all written in 1 through 7B. They might change their party affiliation. So they'll put their old party affiliation here, and it's just to let the county clerk know that they have been registered already, and not to make a duplicate registration for them. That's why they have that there. All right. 9, they look at this paragraph and they read it, they sign it, and they date it, and they frequently skip the date. And if you're doing high school students, make sure they put the year down. And it's not just, you know, January 18th and they don't put the year down, make them put that down as well. The signature here is if we had to help them with this form and they have to make an X, then we will witness, and we will be the ones to witness it, and we will date it as well. By the way, they can put pretty much anything down for a signature. They could just put their first initial. But for high school students, I would remind them that this is the way they have to sign their ballots, or that ballot will be not counted until they can cure it with the county clerk. Because if they write a different signature than they did on their registration form, that's going to, you know, signify that there's some problem. So use the same signature always if you can.
Linda, Aaron points out in chat, very important. Note, if a voter has made their voter registration confidential, they can't look up their data online, nor can they update it online.
Right. And for a while I was told, and I don't know if this is the case anymore because we're going to go online in a second. The reason why they wanted them to use their driver's license instead of their social security number, if they had a driver's license, is because that's how you used to be able to look yourself up online and to change anything. So I haven't been able to test that out because I have my driver's license, but yeah, you can be confidential, but I would not be collecting your form. You would be sent to the county clerk's office. You would pay a little extra money and you could become a confidential voter, but then you'll never be able to check yourself, look yourself up or change anything online. So, but some people have some good reasons to do that. So, but you do have to go to the county clerk in person to do that.
We have a question.
Sure.
Can you define what is meant by helping to register, quote unquote, helping to register?
Well, we answer questions. So that's how we help. If someone, like I said before, had their glasses missing or their handwriting was really shaky and they didn't think it was legible, we would ask them, what is your name? How do you spell it? And we would write it for them. So that would be helping. Okay.
Does that
And we
answer
would
the question?
we would do all of it except for the signature.
Go ahead and speak up. I don't know if you're muted, but if you don't feel like that was answered, please let us know. I'm not sure. It's a League of Women Voters and Compadre who's asking this question.
Yeah,
What I'm saying is, specifically, what, besides handing somebody a form, if you're explaining what any of those questions are, is that considered helping? And then you're required to sign on as a witness.
no, the witness is strictly for the signature.
Okay, you witness the signature, but do you have to give your information as having helped with
No.
this?
No, I know I've been at another place, Georgia used to do that. If we helped them, we had to put our name down that we helped them.
Uh-huh.
But no, Colorado doesn't do that. So it's strictly for the witnessing of the signature.
So if
they
you're just
didn't-
explaining the meaning of a question, giving them advice to where to find the answer, telling them about scholarships, that's not helping, and you don't have to have any documentation of who you are and that you were there.
No, in our documentation is that I took the training as an organizer with the state as a VRD, and
Mhm.
everybody has a circulator number and it has our VRD number on it. So they are aware that we're, working with people and helping them register. But as far as the signature goes, back on that other slide, that is strictly witnessing somebody making an X, not writing
Okay.
their real
Okay.
signature, making an X.
Great, thank you.
Linda, we have a question from Loretta about state scholarships. Loretta,
Sure.
go ahead. Make sure you're unmuted.
Right. Okay, every year I forget to ask this question. I don't know anything about, Linda, you talk about these WICHE or whatever they are, these
Mhm.
scholarships, and I just looked up online and I'm not finding exactly what they are, which scholarships these are. I know they're for this area, but I can't find the
Okay.
writing.
Okay, so it is for the Western, it's a compact by the Western states.
Uh-huh.
And they agree that if a student from Wyoming wanted to come to college here, let's say Arizona, because this is my son. My son wanted to come from Arizona to go to school here. And he was going for his master's degree, which would be the WICHE. And he
WICHE.
got to pay
What
just
does
the
WICHE
same
stand for? What's WICHE?
Western Interstate, blah, blah, blah. I forget the
Okay,
rest of it.
That's what I
And-
want. I want
Yeah,
that.
and the other one is Western Undergraduate, the WUI,
Okay,
Western Undergraduate Education. So that's what
Okay.
it stands for.
yeah,
And it's for all the Western states. So like my son was coming from Arizona, he had the WICHE, so he was not able to get a driver's license or register to vote here, or he would lose that scholarship that he got from Arizona.
okay,
And if
Yeah.
the students get it from Colorado to go to Arizona, they don't want to register in Arizona.
Right.
But it's a Western compact, and I never remember the full name, but I can look that up for you and send it to you, Loretta, or anyone
Yeah,
else who
just-
might want it.
I always want to ask that question every year.
That's okay. 10 is optional information, but we're kind of encouraging people to do that. It's nice if we have their phone number, at least if there's a problem, we could call them and ask them if we could, hey, your birth date is wrong. Do you mind if I change that? Do I have your permission to change that? Or if the county wanted to call, but it's nice to give that extra information, but it is optional. Do you need to use a Colorado driver's license on the VRD form? Well, if you have one, you should use it. Otherwise, if you don't have one at all, you're non-driver or you're new to Colorado, then you can use your last 4 digits or social. And it does say down here that if somebody doesn't have anything, they're going to give them a unique identifying number. I asked them who that would be, and they still really couldn't tell me who that would be. Maybe somebody that just became a new citizen and they just became, certified yet, and maybe they don't have a social security number then, nor did they have their driver's license. Maybe that would be it, but I've never run across anybody that applied to. There are other ways to register other than us showing up at a table at a farmer's market. You can do it online at Go Vote Colorado. I'm going to show you that in a second. You can do it by mail. We can give them the form that's not a VRD form. And then they, on the back, it gives them where they can mail it, or a national voter registration form. I've never had anybody bring me this national voter registration form, but it would be just for the more when they're having the presidential elections probably. But I've not seen that, but if they give it to us, we are supposed to turn it into the county clerk's office. This is what we send out. And I got this wonderful idea from Barb's Greeley Weld League, because they're not a VRD and they just give them envelopes to send it in. So I have the information for our clerks, our Larimer County clerk, but this is what it would look like. It's pretty much the same form, as it just doesn't say drive on it, and it doesn't have circulator number or VRD number on it. All right, this is govotecolorado.gov. I strongly recommend that anyone that's registering people get really familiar with this website. You can give people a lot of information, even if they're not, if they're already registered. This is where they can go to update their registration. This is where they can go to check their registration. So you can see they can register online, and they're now letting them use Social Security number online. And that just started last spring, I believe, along with a Colorado license or Colorado ID. Here's the problem with using a Social Security number if they're brand new to the state or they're a young person in high school. The only way they'd have their signature on file is probably if they registered a vehicle maybe, or if they got their driver's license. But if they don't have that and they use their Social Security number, then they have no signature on file with the state. So they're not really registered. The state's going to end up, the county clerk's going to end up sending them a form and somehow having them, turn in a signature. So we're not recommending that for our high school students because we don't think they're going to jump through that additional hoop on their own. So we'd rather we did it with a paper form. If you do it, you can just click on no and you can get a paper form, and then you can get your signature right all in the same step, and you use your Social Security number. I recommend them doing that rather than going online with the Social Security number. We like to check registrations, especially in the high schools, because they don't know if they're registered or not. But you're going to come across people at a farmer's market or a festival and they go, you know what, I'm not sure. I might have moved. I don't know if I updated it. Don't count on the post office. They only do that once a month, send the updated addresses, and it could be missed. So always do it online like this, or do it in person. We're going to click on Find My Registration. I wanted you all to get familiar with this and practice this on your own with your own registration. So I'm yes.
Sorry if I keep having to interrupt you. We have a question. A distinction is being made about voter registration drive versus not drive. If forms are not collected, is it not considered a drive, or is it not considered a drive? Correct? Question mark.
Yes, as long as they're not collected, it's not considered a drive.
Okay. Does that answer your question? You have to unmute.
Well, and you might want to follow, this is Barb Winery.
Yeah.
We do that at Greeley here, and they are responsible for returning their registration to the clerk and report.
The voters are.
Yeah, the
voters are.
voters are. That's why we give them an envelope, because
Right.
we're not turning as a non-VRD. We are not collecting voter registrations, and we're not taking them to the county clerk. They are
Right.
responsible for doing it.
So she's not a drive, so she's okay. As long as she's not collecting them, she's not a VRD. And yeah.
And Linda, you mentioned that the on the form we handwrite in our VRD number, and then and that you said it, but it's not super obvious. If you look at the form, you'll see the subtle difference between the one that say Weld County hands out because they don't have their numbers up there, and the ones that we use when we're collecting the forms.
Yeah, the difference is it will not say the word drive. And then
On the
off to
very
the
top.
right, there'll be
Mhm.
no VRD number space, and there'll be no circulator space. They'll just have a typical form. And we have those forms as well. And those are in our envelopes when people are in a hurry and they want to do it on paper. Then we cannot ever give them our VRD forms. It always has to be If they want to take a form with them, it has to be the other form that does not have our number on it. Okay? We all right?
I believe
Right.
so.
If you're going to check somebody's registration and practice on your own, put in your first, last name, zip code, put in your birthday, and it's got to be done this way, 2 digits / 2 digits / 4. Click, I'm not a robot, click search. And then when you do that, if you're registered, your registration will come up. It should say that it's active. That's really important to look for. We found several people who thought they were registered and they were inactive. So they weren't going to get a ballot mailed to them. You might, if you want to change your party affiliation, you could go and click the edit and you could change it there right online. You can also change your address if you didn't get if your address is wrong and you've moved. You can click edit and you can do it right online, or you can do it on paper or in person, however you want to do it. Students that we go into the high school, if they can see their registration, it says active, they know they're registered. All right, but what if you put in what if you put in a zip code and you've moved and or you got the wrong, say like this is my new zip code, but I never updated. Okay, so I have my new zip code in, but I was registered under my old zip code. So when I put my new one in, it says we can't find a record that matches your information. Y'all see that in red? That means you're not registered at that address, probably for that zip code, or you're just not registered, period. Maybe you never registered. Maybe you thought you did. But if you get this, we can't find a record that matches your information, you're not registered, and that's our opportunity to give you whatever to help you register, whether you're going to do it on paper, online, mail it in, or do one of those 3 things. When we go into the high school, we see a lot of kids that are under 18. They're not going to be able to see their registration for privacy reasons. And they don't get that other message that we can't find a record because they actually are registered. And this is what it'll say if they're under 18 and they are registered. If you have questions about your registration information or need further assistance, please contact your county clerk and recorder. So when we go into the high schools, we've been really trying to find the best way to help them. And still, some kids might not get it. We just have them keep it on their screen and we'll come around and we'll tell them, yeah, you're registered. No, you're not registered. But this is the message that you get if you're under 18 and you are registered.
We have a question in the
Sure.
chat. Do you have to use your full name?
You should use the license plate, the driver's license name. So I wouldn't necessarily put your middle name down, but if it said James, I wouldn't put Jim. I'd put James. Make sure to look up. And you can play around. If it says that we can't find a record, then play around. Maybe you made a mistake. Maybe you made your birth date wrong. Maybe you put your zip code wrong. Maybe you wrote Jim and it was supposed to be James. So check it a couple times and you still can't get it to come up, then you need to re-register. I put in my old information, updated my record online because I moved. And when I went to check it, it didn't accept it. So I said, forget it. I'm just doing it on paper because I know I can get it right on paper. But, online can mess up as well. It's always good to check and make sure you're registered at your current address.
And,
Voter ID.
and Linda, I have a question.
Sure.
If they're not sure and we don't have, we haven't been able to log on, they can just fill out the form again.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And that's what we used to do. We used to just say, if you're not sure, just go ahead and register anyway. That way it would update their signature. But we found about 50% of the kids we were registering were already registered. So we've kind of wanted to make it easier for the county clerks not have to do all that. I'm going to come to something later that I wanted to talk about, another reason why we're checking. Are you required to provide an ID before you vote? If you're brand new to Colorado or you registered with your social security number, they need something that proves that you're a resident of Colorado. So they are going to have you either put something in the ballot or you're going to have to bring something in when you vote for the first time if you're new. For our purposes, we just need Colorado driver's license, learner's permit, or Colorado ID. If they're new or a non-driver, new to Colorado or non-driver, they can use the last 4 of their social. But those are probably the ones that are going to have to provide some further identification when they actually vote, whether they do it by mail or whether they go in person. And these are just some of the things they use. Really doesn't pertain to us that much, because we're just looking at the driver's license when we're registering. Any questions?
None in chat.
Okay, collecting forms. Never let a voter go away with our VRD form, even if they decided they didn't want to finish it. They can write across the top, do not process, and they can put their initials underneath. We do not cross it out. We do not write on that form. We let the voter do that, but we do have to collect that form, especially we know when we're doing the VRD forms, we have to collect that. So if they want to take a form home, give them the one that's in the envelope that's not a VRD form. And any forms we collect, we do have to turn in. We don't throw them away. We don't rip them up. We turn them in. It's part of being a VRD. We're responsible for collecting everything that we start with. All right. What if they give you a form that's not a VRD registration form? If they give it to you, you turn it into the county clerk. I've never had that happen though. This information is not available for the public. Social Security number, Colorado ID, driver's license, day and month of the birth, signature, email addresses. That's not even available if you ask for data. You're not going to get their emails. If we were to collect any of this, we'd have to if we would make copies of it, we'd have to black it out. We don't do that. So we don't collect any of this information, especially off the forms. We don't take it off the forms. We are allowed to send them a postcard getting their address, though. Their name and their address is public information. So we can do a postcard if we wanted to get out the vote.
Or
Deadlines. Any questions?
or a text.
Yeah, yeah. Deadline for the VRDs, we cannot collect forms after October 16th for this year. So that's the end of our drives. If we had a high school, it would be preferable that we did it on Friday, because I don't know if we could get to the county clerk's office by 5 o'clock on the 16th if we did a drive on Monday. So I just kind of avoid Mondays. I make sure all my forms are already turned in, if at all possible, before that Monday. That's more to do with the agents and the organizers than it is to you guys, the circulators, the volunteers. We have 15 days to turn a form in, 15 business days, but we try to get them in as soon as possible and not sit on them. Yes?
Linda, back from the 22 days. So you mentioned October 16th.
16th, right. That's 20 days before, yeah.
But so if like we're having an election here in Windsor, and if we were trying to get people registered, the election day is Tuesday, the 24th or something like that. We have to count 22 days back from that, I think.
Right. If you're a VRD, so we have to make sure that we don't register anyone who just moved here after that 22 deadline. We try not to do too many registrations after that day, because it does get a little more sticky, because we don't want someone to register that hasn't been here the 22 days prior. So that's a question that we have to ask. So I prefer to not complicate things and try to end it all that 22 days before, if it's at all possible. The voters themselves, they can keep on registering even up to election day. So they can keep registering by mailing something in, by going online, by going in person. They can register all the way up till 7 p.m. on election day, which I believe is November 8th. What we'll do is we'll give them a paper form that they could mail in if there's enough time. We'll show them how they could do it online at Go Vote Colorado, or we'll tell them where their county clerk's office is or where the voter service polling centers are. If we're out there then. We might not be out there then, though. Legal compliance, yes?
I'm sorry. We have a one question and one comment. The party affiliation is public, right?
Let me think. I don't look at the data that much. Marge does that. Let me think.
Okay,
It is.
It is. And
Yeah,
then,
the data I've compiled for you, Linda, it'll say Republican, Dem, or Independent.
yeah.
So it will say that. Okay.
And then
That's how they know who to email, right? Or who to, not email, who to text.
And Linda did mention that if you're under 18, you can't find your registration online. There will be a message. She did show that. And then we have a question from Ayers to ask. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, real quick, Linda, you had mentioned mailing out postcards for Get Out the Vote. Is that using the names and addresses from the people we registered?
I've done it both ways. I've gotten their information to mail them postcards as a one-shot thing if I'm taking it from their form. We were asking them to give us information, and so they had to be 18 to do this, the high school students, to give us their information so that we could maybe text them or email them. But we can't get the emails from the data. The other thing is to buy the data from the county clerk's office. And if they put a phone number down, then you'd be able to text them, but you definitely be able to get their address and you could email them. So we've done our Get Out the Vote several ways: postcards, emails, and this year we started texting. But they have to list their phone numbers in order to be able to text them, because or we have to get permission to get it from them if they're 18. All right, any other questions about that?
We have a comment in the chat that general election day this year is November 7th, 2023.
Is it 7, not 8? Thought I looked that up right. All right, I will adjust that. It's going to come up later. All right.
Yeah, I
Of
just
course,
checked it too.
It's
So,
a 7th. All right. Of course, when we're doing VRDs, we can't commit any fraud, intimidation, mishandling of forms, misuse of confidential voter information, failure to deliver applications. So I can't take, if they put their email on that registration form, I cannot take that. And I don't really take their phone numbers either. I'd want their permission on that, but I have done their address just to send a postcard out. And failure to do that, somebody can complain about us and then we could be fined, but we've never been fined in the 6 years and more that we've done this. Can you be compensated? If an organization has the money to do that, yes, you can be, but not by form. It has to be either by the hour or by the day. I think maybe New Era might do compensation, I'm not sure, but our league does not do that. So we just thank you for volunteering with us. All right, that's it with the county, with the state PowerPoint. I want you to know that these are the important website I really want people to get familiar with. GoVoteColorado.gov. We kind of looked at that a little bit. Vote411.org. And when we do our registrations, we have QR codes now on the back of our clipboards. So that if people just puts their phone up to it, they can go to Go Vote Colorado and they can look up, we can show them how to look themselves up to see if they're registered and not use our phones. But it's a quick way to doing it rather than typing it in on their phone. This is what Vote 411 looks like. This is run by the League of Women Voters. It's a nonpartisan organization, so the information here is nonpartisan. It's nationwide, which has got some really cool uses when you're going to the colleges and the high schools. And I'll tell you what we've started to add in our presentations. When you're handing these bookmarks out that I'm going to show you next, we mostly are telling them when you get your ballot in the mail, we're kind of controlling their expectations. When you get your ballot in the mail, that's when you can go to Vote 411 and you'll see your races. You'll click on Find What's on Your Ballot. You'll see candidates and you'll see ballot issues. We never tell you how to vote, but we just want to make it easy for you. And they love that when they hear that it's all nonpartisan. We ask the candidates questions. They publish their own answers and upload it. We don't touch that. The ballot issues are pros and cons. We don't tell you how to vote on that, but if you wanted to know how what the league's position was on any ballot issues, you'd have to go somewhere else. You'd have to either go to the state of Colorado's website, Colorado League of Women Voters, or you'd have to go to the Larimer League of Women Voters or another county's League of Women Voters to find out what our stand was on a particular ballot issues. It could be for, it could be against, but it'll never be on Vote 411. What I like to tell the students in the high school, and now we're going to add that to the college students, is if you do go to another state, you get a great job and you move away from home, this is your 2021, you could use this Vote 411 and you could find out how you register to vote in that new state. that you're in, not with a WUI or a witchy scholarship though, because you don't want to lose that. But if you're just moving there, later, and if you're in college and you're coming from another state and you're here going in college to Colorado and you want to get an absentee ballot, you could go click on register to vote, put in your family's address and your state and your family in the other state, and it'll tell you how you can get an absentee ballot. So that's another information that we're going to be handing out and telling the CSU students and the Front Range students about if they need that. So I really found that something more that we can hand out to them. This is basically what you do to get the information you want. You just put in your address, city, zip code, and state, and it'll give you all the information you need to know of how to register in another state or what's going on in your own state. And this is the bookmarks that we hand out. We have them in English and Spanish. If any league is interested in getting this, you can just change your county information on that, but we're happy to share that with you. Again, my email is going to be at the end, and it was also in the chat. Automatic voter registration started in July 2020, so there are less people that we're registering. What they do is they're not supposed to ask them any questions. They're just supposed to, if they bring the right information, they're supposed to automatically register them to vote. And then a postcard is sent to them and they can opt out of being registered, or they can change their party, because if they do nothing, then after 20 days, they're going to be registered as an unaffiliated voter. So if they don't want, and you can always drop out of being registered at any time. You can go online, find your registration and just delete it. You can change it. So if you miss that 20 days, you could always change that. But we're concerned, I had a little concern about automatic voter registration, whether it was working correctly, because we were still registering a lot of high school students. But I have to look at when their driver's license was issued. If it was issued before July 2020, well, okay, that's why they weren't automatically registered. If they got a learner's permit when they were 15, of course, they're not going to be registered to vote when they're 15. So those are some things that I need to look at to see if that explains why I'm still registering kids who have a driver's license. And then when we check them, they're not registered to vote. So if you're doing high schools and you want to do some checking of their voter registration, I did show you how you could do that on these slides. And we are recording this, so these slides will be available to you. One other thing that we hand out, that we're going to hand out in Larimer League, is we're going to hand out ballot tracks information to show them how to sign up for it. But you can sign up on govotecolorado.gov. So check that website out. It was a little bit below Find My Registration. It's under Track or Cure Your Ballot. You have to be already 18 and already registered to sign up for it. You'll get an automatic call, email, or text letting you know your ballot was mailed. Then they send you another text when you mail your ballot back or drop it off to tell you that it was received. And I got a third text this time telling me that it was counted. So for anybody that's concerned about mailed ballots and whether they're secure, this is a wonderful thing to sign up for. I really like it. And then if say these students that write just a J as their initial, as their signature, if they find they're going to have to cure their ballot because their signature was different when they voted, they'll get a letter in the mail and it'll give them the information, but they'll be able to cure their ballot through their phone, which is really cool, because otherwise they have to look for a stamp and an envelope to mail this information back. But they're going to be able to cure their ballot if they had any problem with it by their phone. And generally it's about their signature. That's usually what it's about. Any questions about that? I'm not hearing anybody.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, this is where our Larimer League registers. We go to high schools and colleges. We've got Ames and CSU, and we've got Front Range and all the high schools. We go to farmers markets, we go to the food bank, we go to festivals. And this is when we were, it was the 100th year celebration, so we were in costume. And we have gone to the independent assisted living centers as well. In fact, Loretta Hogue is going to be doing that for us. She'll probably start that in midsummer or late summer. We've gone to the Murphy Center, which for us is a place where homeless or people that are looking for work they can go to the center. So we catch a lot of people that aren't registered there. Homeward Alliance events, that's part of that same organization. We get a lot of Hispanic, Latinx people that are attend these events who aren't registered. We try to bring a Spanish speaker in with us when we do that. We had been going into the jail and work release and halfway house in Larimer County before COVID. That's been problematic, and they're renovating the jail, so we haven't been in since 2020.
Linda,
But
we
but
have
if you're,
a,
yes,
do
question.
other states use ballot tracks?
I think they might. I think they might, because when I signed up for it, I saw that maybe you could put a different state in it. So I think other states were using that. So, but you can investigate that further, but I thought that I had to put my state in. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
This
I
is
think it's the national system.
yeah, I think so.
Colorado, you can always just go directly to your registration on their site and check if it's in. So that's kind of how they're doing it, but I don't believe
Right.
it's not associated with the Secretary of State.
Yeah. And I liked it because I was told when it was being mailed out. One time my husband got it and I didn't get it. I'm like, what? But then I got the text that said it was coming. So I'm like, all right, it's coming. But it's a good way to keep track of the ballot. And then, things get lost in the mail. It's not anybody's fault. And when that happens, if you got that it was supposed to be mailed and you don't get it for a week, well, then you can assume it's probably lost in the mail and you can request another one. So we have to change this. Our general election is November 7th. I'm glad I haven't gone to a high school yet to do this. But I will change that. And I don't know about your local elections. We're not going to be having any in Larimer County that we're aware of. We're not having an election till November. If you're interested in volunteering with the league, and if our league is a VRD, contact your voter registration person at your league and ask for the training acknowledgement form. Well, my Larimer people, I already sent it to you today. So I'm hoping you're busy filling that form out. For those of you that are with another league, if you're a VRD, or if you're not, just find out who does the registration at your league. Tell them you did take the training for us as a circulator. And if they need to give you a training acknowledgement form, they'll do that. If you're just volunteering on your own, the county clerk has the forms and you can get them from them. I just want to point out that sometimes it's difficult to be an individual and collect those forms because people don't want to give you all that information. So you can take that form back with you and you can mail it. The address is on the back and you can mail it to Denver. And it'll get to your county clerk. That information is put online, so it'll make it there. So if you're volunteering on your own, it's probably better to let them take their own form rather than you collect it, because I don't think you'll get too many takers on that. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to take those. And here is my email address if you want any of those cards for convictions or the bookmarks. We're happy to give that to you. And I'm going to stop sharing, and I can put this again in my chat, but I want to be able to look at everybody's faces. All right, so I'm going to put it in the chat again, if you should need it. Maybe you could do that, Pat. I'm
Yep,
trouble
it's done. It's done. I messed up twice, but I did it right the last time. Linda M. Thomas 669@gmail.com.
Yeah. All right. And any questions?
Linda, do you know that form that pops up for the high school students that says you should check with the planning clerk? Does that also pop up when people make their data confidential?
I'm sorry, I'm not totally hearing you.
It's probably my speaker. The form or that screen that comes up if you try and look up your information,
Right.
and that comes up for the high school students. If you've made it confidential, do you get the same screen? And the reason I ask is because remember when there was that huge thing after the 2015 election where people were making their data confidential.
Right.
They'd look them up and they couldn't find themselves because they were confidential. And at that time, nothing came up to tell like a form like check with the county.
Right. It is always possible that those kids might have been confidential. I don't think that's as likely.
No,
as
I'm
it
just
would be
wondering
for
if
adults.
confidential adult voters get that same screen that pops up. To check
Probably
Okay.
that they can't find it, probably. Because they would putting in their name, their zip code and their birthday. So none of that's, Yeah, I would think that's what they'd get coming up. Does anyone know someone that knows if they ever tried to look their, yeah, Loretta, do you know if someone who
my
tried to
daughter-
look?
Yeah, my daughter has protected ID and she can't get it. She also went to help with a precinct meeting and she couldn't be involved.
She couldn't look it up.
partake in that. No,
Ah.
because they couldn't find her.
Yeah,
So
and so
she
if she tried to look it up, we cannot find a record that matches. Okay, all
Correct.
right,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
So you are limiting yourself if you get that, but some people have some very good reasons to do that. And then your data is not sold either. It's not included in the data when they hand out the data to different organizations trying to get out the vote or, you know, campaigning for people. That will not be included if you're anonymous. Any other questions?
Great presentation, Linda. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And
Yeah, thank you, Linda. Your expertise is incredible. So
I want to point out to anybody doing this new, I knew nothing when I arrived here 6 years ago. And when I would do a registration, somebody asked me a question, it's like, I don't know the answer to that. I'd be honest with them. I'd write down their email if they gave it to me, and I'd write down their question, and I promised them that's the only thing I would look up. So I asked the county clerk so many questions. They really kind of got sick of me. But I said, the people want to know. I mean, I could be sending them all to them if that's what they want. But it seems easier if I could answer that question, because I'm going to get the same question over and over again. But anyway, if you're new, don't get discouraged. You're doing nothing wrong. If you don't know the answer to everything, you do your best. And you can always give them the county clerk's, your county clerk's phone number if they want to call directly. And give them a paper form to take home and try it on their own if they don't want to register with you.
One other question came up. What is a VRD LWV? A VRD is voter registration drive. LWV is League of Women Voters. Does that
Right.
answer the question?
Yeah. We like to abbreviate a lot.
Yeah. For everything. Anybody else? Questions? We love Linda Thomas in Larimer County. She's
Yeah.
not only is she knowledgeable, she's the most organized person in the whole world. So if you want to learn how to do it right, come hang out with Linda for a day.
Yeah. And I love my people because they're now taking off some of this to me. I've got somebody doing the food banks, Betty Marshall. I've got somebody doing the farmers market. Judy Weaver's going to do the Larimer Farmers Market. I've got Carol doing the Thompson School District while I do the Poudre School District. And I've got, there's one other one, Loretta, and Loretta's doing the Senior Living Center. So that makes it easier if you can get people that start to feel comfortable with the information. We're trying to get new leaders, and you don't want to disappear and then leave everybody in the hole. So my goal now is to train new people to come in, and I can keep doing this longer if I have help with some of the stuff. And your league may be the same way. So
Yeah,
good
well,
luck,
yeah.
everybody.
yeah, you have great information. You have a great resource to contact. And also you can be mentors. And this is a great place to start with League and learning. You're doing a very valuable thing. You're helping the public not only register to vote, but to help them understand the process. And you're also protecting the whole process by being out there and knowing what the rules and what the laws are and doing it right. So, well, thank you, Linda. Thank you, everybody who attended. I really appreciate it. I know Linda does too. Appreciate her time and preparation and her sharing the knowledge with all of us. So if you not have any more questions, I will close down things and say thank you very much and keep warm and keep safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Linda. And
Thank you.
thanks, Pat, for helping.
No problem.
Thank you, Pat.
I thought that went extremely well.
I did too. You did really well, Linda. You are such a
She's a pro.
joy to listen to.
Pat's my favorite question checker.
You did a good, that was, you were well coordinated and we didn't spend a lot of time. We went right to the answers and got them taken care of, so
Oh, good
That's-
questions, really good questions.
Lots of
really
thanks
good.
in the Chat too, Linda. Lots of thanks.
Okay,
All
well,
right.
thank you
Bye,
and good night,
y'all.
everybody.
Adios.
Adios.
Adios.